Greetings, shippers, and welcome back to another episode of Fanversations. Yes, I know, it's been a while. Today we're joined by the lovely Maddy, who ever so graciously took me up on my offer that I made so long ago to talk about Star Trek. I will of course have all of her links down below so you can check out her fics especially. We covered a variety of Star Trek topics, dealing mostly with TOS, The Next Generation, and the new film series. We touch upon Discovery as well. Now this was filmed a while ago, so there have been some new developments surrounding Discovery, but my feelings still stand, updated, but still along the same vein. So if you're interested in seeing a discussion about Trek by two Trekkies who don't always have the same viewpoints on different series and iterations, well then this is the chat for you. Enjoy watching two sci-fi nerds nerd out. And of course, if you disagree with anything we said or anything about Trek, let us know down below. Share all your Trekkie feels. Now as always, these are long and there's a lot to get to, so if you haven't already, please do follow on social media to stay up to date and make sure that you never miss a vid, and also just to chit chat about fandom because it's a good time, I swear, and let's chat about Trek. I like all your Funkos in the bag.
Yeah, I have like an army of Funkos. My parents keep saying it's too much, but I'm like, no, not really. It's never enough.
Now you can still see Wall, so...
Yeah, kinda. You can also, like, if I angled my camera down, you could see an entire row of books, like, that I bought when I was younger from the Star Wars Jedi Apprentice series. That was my favorite, just because Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Greetings, shippers. It's Sasha here with...
Maddy.
And what do you said you wanted to promote, so what do you want to promote?
I wanted to, I'll let you link my AO3 account. It's, actually it's Deathlife97. I get a lot of weird looks for it, but I love that.
What kind of fics do you write?
I write a bunch of random stuff. I don't have as much time, because right now I'm working towards getting a master's, so it's a lot of schoolwork.
Yeah.
But when I do write, I recently wrote a little snippet over winter break that was about pre-serum Steve Rogers.
Nice.
And just Bucky and Tony being a little sassy, of course. Because we need the sass.
Of course, they're not in character if they're not sassy.
Yeah, that's way too OOC for me. There has to be some sass. Otherwise, it's just like, what's the point?
You emailed me and you actually took me up on Star Trek, which I was very happy for. I'm really excited. I'm just subdued because I don't want to wake my daughter up, but I am really excited to talk about Star Trek.
See, I don't really care. I live with my parents still because it's like, it's free, but it's like, they're out there, so if they hear me laughing, I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I'm like, don't bother me right now. I want to be in this.
So we had a hard time narrowing down our focus because Star Trek's so huge.
Yeah, I figured we could talk about a couple of things, like maybe when we first were introduced to Star Trek, because for me that was my starting fandom. And then like maybe like its significance like on our fandom lives, because that was huge for me.
So when did you get into it?
Oh God, it was in 2009. It was when the first Star Trek movie came out for the new ones. Yeah. And so I loved it, and so my parents were like, "Oh, did you know that there was an original series?" I'm like, "What?" Because at the time I didn't know about it. The only thing I remembered was from when I was younger, and there was an episode. Oh, I think it was Voyager. It was the one with the Borg lady.
Yes, yeah, Voyager.
I haven't seen all of it, but I remember that one episode because I think it was like her trying to help another Borg or something. Like desimulate. I don't remember what it was. I was a kid, but I remember that. But I didn't realize there was an original series, so I got into that. And that's when I started shipping Symbrock. It was only until I saw Shatner and Nimoy together, I was like, how are they not a couple? How are they not a couple?
Well, that's like I was mentioning to you that in the newer movies, like even though there's still a decent amount of Spurk, there's actually for the new movies, if you took that on its own and you were to find what the dominant pairing was, it would actually be Kirk and McCoy because they tend to have a bit of a closer chemistry in the newer series, whereas him and Spock still have chemistry, but it's very different than the chemistry that they have in the original series, particularly because Spock is different. He's not struggling as much with trying to balance his Vulcan half and his human half, and I feel that really, it doesn't take away from the character, but it's a very different take on it, and so ultimately it creates a different dynamic between him and Kirk, and I feel that that's partially why they're not as shipped, and also because in the newer films, like now that you've gone back and seen the older stuff, like the newer films, they rely a lot on you having seen those for investment. I mean, that's my problem with the second one, where they redo basically the Wrath of Khan, but they haven't earned it because they haven't. You don't. The only investment you have is because you knew about the characters before. Like, it doesn't earn it on its own right, which is my main problem with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because when that first came out, I wasn't as deep into fandom and stuff, so I enjoyed it just because I liked watching Spock being really emotional over Kirk's death. Like, I will never forget how I kind of was trying to hold in my laughter when Spock was like, "Khan!" It was like, oh god, I just realized it's going to be on the internet forever. Oh well, whatever. Yeah, I think my favorite of the new ones would probably be Beyond, because it was more original in a way. Like, I liked Jayla.
I liked Beyond the most, too, because it was the first one that really broke off and just accepted itself for what it was and fully embraced being an alternate universe retelling, which I liked, because I'm like, if it's an alternate universe retelling, just go for it, because that was the other problem I had with Into Darkness, where they actually call up old Spock, like Prime versus Spock, like, and they're like and he's like, every universe is different, but Khan is evil no matter what. And I was like,
what about in the mirror universe, first of all? But second of all, I never understood that, because sorry, I thought I hurt my parents, but I remember when I was watching that, my only thought was, okay, in the fix, it's supposed to be really secretive, like that Spock is from another dimension. That's why in like most of the fix I read, he's called Sarek, because apparently that was his undercover name in something. And that's why I didn't understand. He was just like, Mr. Spock, Mr. Spock. I can't raise my eyebrow, so. But I was just like, that. I'm surprised the universe just didn't go.
Just explode, like their fingers touch and just everything.
Yes, exactly. I really wish that had happened. That would have been so funny. That would have been like.
They just roll the credits.
That was the end, just like space, the final frontier. That would have been...
Don't touch alternate universe versions of yourself.
So someone write the crack for that, please. Someone please do that. But it's just like, and then like I remember when I read about the bonus feature of Spock seeing Kirk Prime saying happy birthday to Spock Prime, I was almost crying because I was like, why didn't you guys fit that in? You should have fit it in. I was like almost in tears actually at the time. I was like, come on.
So have you gone back and seen all of the original Treks and like all that stuff now?
I've seen all of the original Trek. I've seen most of the Next Generation. There's still a couple of seasons I'm still missing out on because I've lost some time. I started watching Deep Space Nine, but then I went back to school and I was like, so I got to catch up on that, and then I haven't seen the last two series. Oh, wait, I wanted to ask you a question, but I wanted to make this comment first. I found this parody comic of Star Trek when I went to the comic book store last year. It was called Elf Trek. And Spock has these huge bat ears. Like, if you could wait a moment, I could go find it so I could show you it.
That's hilarious.
You want to see it?
Yeah, go for it. I kind of love that.
I know, right? And he's just like, Daddy. It was just like, this is beautiful. Especially the best part is on the side of the first cover, it's like featuring the uncool Assmen. So the X-Men is donkeys.
Nice.
And I'm like, the parody that boldly goes where no elf has gone before. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I have to get it.
Well, no, how can you put it down with a tagline like that?
Yeah, how can you put it down, like, when you just see Spock, and then Kirk just being like,
I love that.
It's beautiful. So this is why I kind of wish you had like a PO box or something, so I could send you cool Star Trek stuff.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. I have a huge collection. Like, it is my dream for people to care enough that I could show all of the bizarre like Star Trek books and comics that I've just amassed over the years, because I used to actually just go to used bookstores just to find like all of the volumes that I was missing and stuff like that, because I really enjoy the tie-in novels a lot. Like, they vary in quality, but there's something that I enjoy in most of them.
Yeah, there's a couple of comics that I really love. I mentioned one of them to you was the ones with the X-Men crossover.
Yes.
That they did in the 90s. So the artwork's really good because there was two ones. They had one with the original series and then one with the Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Next Generation comic had a tie-in comic where they basically predicted Patrick Stewart becoming Charles Xavier in the new movies. Because they were like, this isn't really a spoiler because it's just an inside joke at this point. It's like Aurora Storm. She's like attracted to John Luke because he looks like Xavier a little bit, I guess. And it's just so weird. And then they actually talk to each other. And it was just like, this was a few years before the first X-Men movie. Yeah, it was just like. And then I will never forget the Green Lantern crossover with Star Trek.
Yeah, no, neither will I.
That was funny. I like read it like twice now, and I was just like, oh my god, this is beautiful. Like I would recommend people read that, if not just for I'm trying not to swear right now, but like for the shits and giggles.
I enjoy crossovers. Like, lots of people don't. They get a kind of bad rap, but I really enjoy them. I think they're interesting, and even when they're poorly produced or kind of weird, I just enjoy the thought process. Like right now, I'm reading Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy meet Archie and Betty and the Gang, and I'm kind of loving it. I mean, he's had tons of crossovers like this. I mean, he met the Punisher, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, this is just par for the course for him.
Didn't he meet Batman at some point, too?
He probably has. I saw that they're doing an actual Brave and the Bold movie of Batman and Scooby-Doo, so I'm always down for Batman and Scooby-Doo crossover.
Yes, I love that. Like, I remember that was my childhood. Like, Scooby-Doo beating the Joker.
Yes.
That was the best. Or like, oh god, what was that? Batman crossed over with something, and I remember it was part of my childhood, but now I don't remember what it was. Oh, no, it was the Batman Brave and the Bold show. Mm-hmm. As a kid, that was my favorite. Because that was what brought the Music Meister. And he's one of my favorite villains. And we're getting off topic of Star Trek.
It happens. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's because it's fun talking to you. It's fun, like, getting into these conversations, because it's like, I have a friend who's also into fandom, but she's, like, she doesn't really have time to write for it, or, like, be a part of it as much as she would want to.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, so expansive and so much fun.
It is. No, it's like, it's really fun to have time to dive into it. Like when I'm really busy and I can't, like, I do miss it. As you mentioned, like, how Star Trek fits in with the other fandoms. For me, it's very much always been there, because Star Trek is one of the earliest things that I remember being into, even before I knew what a fandom was, which is why it isn't my first fandom, because I didn't know what a fandom was or how to be in one. It was just something that I always liked. My dad, he had this one cassette that he'd burned from TV of TNG episodes, and we would just watch it over and over again, and we'd rent Star Trek TOS episodes from the video store and stuff like that. So I saw them all out of order and mishmashed and everything, and I absolutely loved it. It just always became this background fandom that I always kind of come back to no matter what. Like, sometimes I'm not as active in it, but I'll always come back to it. It's almost like a comfort at this point, a comfort fandom.
Yeah, it's what started on my path, because when I was younger, like, I noticed things, but I was never really into it. It was when I was into Star Trek, the original series, that I really got into it, because I made it a tradition every Saturday night at 9 o'clock for me, because that's Pacific. Mm-hmm. They always had it on this really old TV network. It was like that runs classics, so like the original Hawaii Five-0 and stuff. So every Saturday, I would commandeer one of the two TVs in my house, and I would make my parents watch them with me, even though they'd probably already seen them 40 million times. Like, I still remember it was kind of awkward watching Amok Time with them, but it was so funny. I was just like, Spark.
I don't know. I don't think you can even watch the episodes too many times. Of course, I'm saying that as a Trekkie who's really into it. My dad and I, like, when I go over and he helps me babysit and stuff, like, we'll still watch episodes and we'll quote the lines and stuff as we're watching it. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, I actually went to a thrift store and I bought some of the Star Trek The Next Generation movies. I think one of them was First Contact.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was my favorite, The Next Generation movie.
I love First Contact. Yeah.
I know some people didn't really like the Next Generation movies, but it's like, because I hear people complain about Nemesis. I'm like, bitch, what do you want about?
I don't love Nemesis. The one that I don't understand the complaints for is Insurrection, because Insurrection, people really liked it when it came out, and then, like, after, it kind of got this bad rep as time went on, and, like, the main complaint I hear is that it's like an episode. But that's kind of what I like about it. It's like a long 2-part episode in movie format, and I'm like, I actually really like that about it. I don't mind that it's not as cinematic as First Contact, because First Contact is arguably the most cinematic out of all of them, and that's part of what I enjoy about it. Nemesis is what the fandom would, I guess, call fanficky. But again, I'm not mad at it. It's a sad one to end on, because that's the last one.
Yeah.
So
and it was with Data too. Like, I don't want to spoil it if someone hasn't seen it, but just with Data, it was like,
it doesn't have the same poignance as The Undiscovered Country does, because The Undiscovered
Country,
God,
I love that one.
Me too. It's such a clear ending, and, like, its whole theme is about resolving the fact that you're not going to do this again. And then you have Nemesis, which is just kind of like, young Picard, look, it's Tom Hardy. So
yeah, that one was pretty fanfiction-y, but I still enjoyed it, like, even if it's like meh. But it was, I lost my train of thought.
Well, that's the thing, like, I find that in general, not just in Star Trek, I enjoy most things. Like, I like to look at the positive side of things and try and pick out things that I enjoy out of something, even if there are things I don't like. Like, even with, say, Into Darkness, like, there's lots I don't like about it, but I do try and pick out the things I do like. Like, I've always said that those films are gateways. Like, people judge them. Like, lots of, like, hardcore Trek fans judge them for not being Trek enough. I'm like, you know what? This is the gateway, and people do get into it. It's kind of like how I got into The Man from U.N.C.L.E. by watching the movie. It was the same situation as with you. I had no idea that there was a TV show, and then all of a sudden I was like, there's a show. I bought the entire box set. It's in, like, an MI5, like, briefcase thing, and I love it. It was such a good purchase. Also, it has Shatner and Nimoy acting together for the first time in one of the episodes, which is great.
I've heard about that. I haven't actually seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E. yet, because it's usually, if they do reruns on TV, it's usually when I'm out of the house, and I'm like, rude.
No, it's good. It's fun. You have to have that patience, though, like, because with all the Treks, like I said in other Fanversations, I think it was with Daniel, actually, that they're all of their time. Like, they feel like when they're from, so you have to take them like that. And if you take them like that, they're a lot of fun. But if you try and place some modern expectations on them, then you're gonna be annoyed with them.
I mean, unless you're doing a modern rewrite.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, oh, now I remembered what I wanted to say to you. My favorite part in Star Trek Into Darkness was probably the chase scene, because just watching Zachary Quinto run, it was just the best.
How do you feel about... Do you wish that Benedict Cumberbatch had been Gary Mitchell?
See, I don't think of Benedict Cumberbatch as Gary Mitchell. If Gary Mitchell ends up popping up in, oh god, what was that actor? I think of him more like, oh Jesus Christ, what the hell is his name? I would usually think of maybe, like, James Marsden, because it'd be kind of fun to see him play it. But I'm trying to think of, oh god, I'm trying to remember the actor that I really like with the brown hair and brown eyes, but it's just not coming to me. But it'd be kind of fun to see, like, maybe James Marsden do that. Or just...
I just would have rather that it was Gary Mitchell than Khan, because...
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as... It would have been a bigger plot twist.
It would have been a bigger plot twist, and for me, my whole thing is that they just didn't earn Khan, and because, like, the way the camera pans in that scene, where he's like, you know, they pan up, and he's like, I am Khan, and I'm like, if you're new, why do you care? It's like, they're playing, because they play that scene like you know, and that was the main problem I had with it. I was like, you're playing this scene like it's for, like, for example, like, it's for me, like, the person who is all invested in all of this, but in this universe, you haven't given me a reason to care. So for me, there was that disconnect of like, okay, but, and that's why I liked Beyond, because Beyond was just like, here, we're going to set up the reasons why you should care about this in this scenario. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. And I really liked Idris Elba, so.
Idris Elba is just the best no matter what. Okay, he's like up there with me, like with Morgan Freeman and Samuel L. Jackson. Like you can't really compare them to anyone else, really. But yeah, like Into Darkness, I feel like when he said "I am Khan," like since he was working as in the Black Ops unit, basically, maybe he knew about the Spock Prime, and so he was like trying to taunt Spock, like, "Oh, if I'm bad like this, maybe I was like this in another universe as well, or something similar. Someone who wants to take control, who wants the power," and so if like trying to taunt Spock into calling Spock Prime to find out who Khan is, because I remember when the first time I saw Into Darkness, when Spock Prime was like at great cost, like the sacrifices you have to make, I actually felt a chill down my spine when he said that. I was like, oh Jesus, because at the time I'd already seen Wrath of Khan. So
have you read the Khan book series?
No, but I'm gonna buy them at some point in the near future.
They're
I already
amazing.
have them on my I've heard they're good. I have them on my wish list, and I'm like, Khan.
No, they're some of my favorites. They're absolutely fantastic. And the history and the way they actually explore the eugenics war is just, it's great.
I wish they had a Trek series based in the eugenics war, because I think that would be, like, maybe, like, a limited series or something.
That would be so great. And you see, I think I'm going to do a Fanversations about Discovery with somebody at the future, but I think that one of my biggest problems with Discovery is the fact that it does pose all of these canon questions when there was already so much canon left to explore that hadn't been. And I'm just like, well, there was so much you could have looked at that you're not looking at, and instead you're looking at this, and then you're getting mad at fans for wanting canon explanations. So I'm like, yeah. You know?
Like, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you earlier. I wanted to ask your opinion on Discovery, because I can't see it right now, because in America, the only way you can watch it is on CBS All Access or whatever, and I'm not paying for that. Like, I'm already paying for Netflix, okay? I would rather have Netflix, because I get more Trek out of it and more everything else. Like,
how much is the CBS All Access anyway?
I don't know. All I know is there was a 7-day free trial, and I'm like, okay, I'll just wait until the entire season comes out, and then I'll watch
trial,
it.
Exactly.
That's what I do. Like, that my friend, when we were younger, before she got a job, what she would used to do is she would used to use all these email accounts to get a free month of Netflix. Like, she would keep re-signing up, and I'm like,
that's funny.
I'm like, dude, are you kidding? She did that for like a year and a half or something. I was like, that's way too much effort for me. I'll just pay for it.
Yeah, I know, it's easier.
Because I see the Netflix in the background.
Oh, yeah. It's, Discovery, like, firstly, the accessibility of it is really unfair, because then a lot of fans don't have access, and so then you don't really have a clear picture, and then they're all like, well, why aren't people watching it? And it's like, well, because you made it so difficult to watch. So I already had Crave, because Crave had Teen Wolf and a couple of other things that I needed to watch on it anyway. So I've been watching Discovery on that, and Discovery it's fine. It's a good show. It doesn't always feel like a Star Trek show, and that can be difficult because it is so heavily serialized. And for some people, that's okay, because that's how shows are now, and it doesn't, phase them. But sometimes I just wish it was more Trekkie, and that I miss having those episodes where you just follow Quark around, or where you follow Data through his day and as he prepares for a wedding. And like, sometimes it's nice to have those character moments with all the different characters. And I think the thing that bothered me the most was when I was reading press leading up to it, because I always read all the press on everything, because I'm curious about how things are being portrayed. And I read this interview where they were like, this is the first Star Trek series where the captain isn't the protagonist, and I was like, that's never been the case. And like instantly it kind of set me kind of on edge, because I was like, well, firstly, it was setting itself up as this dichotomy, is this Trek is better than your Trek because insert AYZ, and then it wasn't even an accurate statement, because I was like, I've watched all of the Treks. The captain has his episodes and his moments, but he has never been even in TOS, he is not the protagonist.
Spock, I think, would be the protagonist, because I remember when I watched your KS video, it made so much sense why they pushed them together, that why Spock would be the breakout character, because we can, I guess, relate to him in a way, because sometimes we do try to cut ourselves off from our emotions. So that's why I think Spock's one of the fan favorites. But then I love that it was iRobot, the iRobot guy that pushed them together. It's like the first shipper.
It's like, I get why Spock broke out. I totally do, because I understand why Kirk was designed to break out. And I can see, like, Kirk is an appealing character, and I get it, and I do like him, but the thing is, Spock has that, he's different, and Kirk is very archetypical for his time.
Yeah.
He's very, like, 60s macho He-Man.
Yeah, but I think I like them both when they're together, like,
Yeah, they have something. They have this great, they just
chemistry.
blend, and they have great chemistry, and it just works. Like, there's something about that pairing together that just works, and they haven't been able to recreate it in the new one, but I'm like, that's fine, because part of it is the time, part of it's the actors, part of it's the writing.
They're younger.
Yeah.
You need more of a build-up, because, like, in the original series, it was already a year into their 5-year mission, wasn't it? And
yeah,
so,
like they've already been on their mission. Like, they know each other. It's quite clear. Like, it's not like they're just starting off getting to know each other. They know each other, and they're already friends, and they've already clearly had missions side by side. And I like that. Like, the canon of Trek is one of the things I enjoy, and I think that's why people are so attached to it, because the canon is so methodically thought out, and it's had a long history of years of people taking such care and, like, finding out what goes where. And so I understand, like, I know that sometimes people go too far with getting upset about changes, but I understand where they're coming from. If that makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, it's like there's that attachment and that fear, because there's always a fear when people start messing with things or changing with things, especially in this day and age where a lot of franchises, it feels like, I was reading up about the Charmed reboot, a lot of franchises, it feels like, even for something like Charmed, just have this kind of irreverence for the source material and this kind of attitude of, well, we're going to do it better. And it's like, well, there's a reason why people liked it and why it was popular, and you shouldn't disregard that. You can take the good parts and build on those and still acknowledge that legacy, and you don't have to, it almost feels very arrogant when, like,
one-upping.
Yeah, like saying, like, your time is done. Like, I feel that way about a lot of the Star Wars press too. Like, I understand that some people are freaking out way too much about the new Star Wars movie and they need to calm down, but at the same time the press is very much like, well, you're just wrong and you can sit down. And so it's like,
I never understood that. Like, I don't understand that, like, trying to one-up each other. Like, if you're doing a reboot, I don't understand ship wars. I don't understand that kind of antagonism, because for me, it's supposed to be an escape from a pretty antagonistic reality, because I live in America. You know who the president is. I'm never saying that he's my president. That's just not going to happen. So the NSA can come after me later. I don't care. But it's like, it's supposed to be an escape from all that kind of stuff, or like going into a reality where maybe it's easier to deal with that kind of hatred. Like, with some of my Trek fics, like, most of them are Kirk Spock. I'm not going to lie about that, but like, it deals with, like, the xenophobia of different races, or Spock being a half-breed, because I think it's supposed to relate in a way to those who at the time were both of white and black colors, because at the time, the whole love trial was going on. Do you know about them?
Yeah, no, like, as a biracial girl growing up, like, I always gravitated towards Spock. Like, what his story represented was quite clear, of, like, how to belong, how to fit in, how people perceive you, how they're going to treat you. And I just thought they handled that with such grace. And that's one of the things I love about sci-fi, is that you can get allegorical, and because it doesn't just need to apply to that specific group, it can apply to so many other people, because that struggle is so universal for so many different groups of people. And that's what I love about it. And also what I love about Trek is the idea that we can aspire to be better. I'm a huge fan of things that believe we can aspire to be better. I enjoy that, but I also do love the idea that sometimes we can just push positivity and ideas about ourselves out there, because we need that sometimes. There's way too much
Oh
out there
god,
of like
yeah.
humans suck and we're the worst.
Well, are we doing better than pre-reform Vulcans or worse? That's what I always think. That's what I like. If I'm feeling bad, I'm like, well, at least I'm not like in the middle of a war about my emotions, a literal war. Oh god, we need a series on that too. Okay, we need a series on the eugenics war and about pre-reform Vulcan, because
Or
I
like,
would
how
live.
amazing would it be to have a non-human central series? Like, that's part of what I like about DS9 is that they focus so
Yeah.
much on the other races. Like, it's still human-centric, but they focus on the Bajorans, the Kardashians, and like, I love it. And so I would love to see why can't we have a series about Klingons? I would love that. That would be amazing, and Trekkies would
Yeah.
watch it. You
I would
know?
love, yeah, like, because Worf is awesome. It's like people are getting so excited about the new Black Panther movie, which I
Mhm.
am excited for too, because it's predominantly black cast. It's like we kind of need the same thing in Star Trek, where we need more than just humans, because there are, I admit, like in the older series, like when the Klingons actually looked like humans before they decided to change it
Yeah,
up.
before they had a budget.
Yeah, before they had a decent makeup, because this was the 60s, so it was a lot of flower power. I'm going to make fun of that. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Oh, like, remember
But,
the Tellarite?
oh my god, yes, that was so funny. It was just like, you know, the city on the edge of forever.
Yes.
They made a graphic novel of the man's original ideas for it. Like, apparently there was just going to be this whole ancient race or something to bring Kirk and Spock back. And I got the novel, and I got the graphic novel, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, I wish they had the technology back then to do this, because that would have been an amazing episode. Like, if they could get the younger actors to like redo it, I would probably squeal and then die.
Well, it's kind of like Jodorowsky's Dune, you know, that there are just some ideas that were beyond what we're capable at the time. Like, if Jodorowsky's Dune had been made, it would have been one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever, but it's just what he wanted to do was not achievable at that time. And it's like, do you remember the episode where Tasha Yar dies? Spoilers for TNG. But
Yeah, I remember that.
that garbage monster, because he's actually made out of garbage bags that they dripped oil on. I love that episode, though. I love it. Like, not that she dies, but I enjoy. Armis is tragic. He's tragic.
It reminds me of in Star Trek, when in the New Hope, when they're in the garbage pit. It's like, if the garbage pit had a kid with someone, it would definitely be that. Like,
Armis, that's where he came from.
Wait, no, he's the spawn of the garbage monster from Star Trek and the plastic bag from the Katy Perry music video, Firework. Just like, do you ever feel like a plastic bag?
Just cut to
Tasha. Just like, I am a plastic bag. What do you want about? I really hope someone writes that now.
I know, that's the crack fic the world needs.
Yeah, like I remember this one crack fic that's with Steve Rogers being paired with Godzilla.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I'm gonna have to send that one to you, because like,
please do. I enjoy stuff like that.
I think they deleted it, but I had downloaded the PDF off of AO3, and I was just like, I didn't know I needed this in my life. Like Wonder Cream, I didn't know I needed it in my life until you said it, and I was like,
well, I'm so happy at the moment on my Patreon vote. Steve Rogers and Wonder Woman is winning the vote, and I'm like, yes. Yes,
I wanted to read fics for them, because I do like my crossover ships. Like, I think one of my favorites is Captain America and Styles Stilinski.
That's fascinating.
I call it Kaplinsky.
That is fascinating.
It's really interesting, especially if they play with like there's this one fic where I think it's still a work in progress, but it's like Styles moves to New York to be with his uncle Phil. That's my favorite trope. Like, Phil Coulson is Styles Stilinski's uncle. That's like my favorite tag. But like, he moves to New York after his dad forces him to, like, because he found out about all the supernatural stuff and wanted to protect him. And there he meets, this isn't really a spoiler for it, it's just like the first 2 chapters or something, but there he meets someone from the pack that had already left. And it was just, and then he integrates into the Avengers because he manages to do something that was thought to be impossible. I'm not going to spoil that part. My parents were really older when they had me, so I was their only child, and my mom didn't even know for 6 months that she was pregnant. So she thought she was just getting fat and going through menopause. And that's like my favorite story, like, of just like being this impossible little thing, because they tried for so long. And then I think that's also why I also identified with Spock, like a miracle baby is basically it. It's just like sapenya.
That's another thing I wish they would acknowledge too, like how difficult interbreeding would be. Like they hint at it, but they don't fully address. Like one show that actually addressed it that people don't care about, but I care about, is Farscape. I love Farscape, and like how they dealt with Scorpius being born of two races, one warm-blooded, one cold-blooded, and he was just trapped perpetually in like never being able to exist without some kind of like body cooling suit because his like structure just couldn't exist. And I was like, yes, can we acknowledge that this would be a thing that would happen a lot if we were dealing with all this crossbreeding?
Yeah, like I remember when I was first getting into the fandom, like, there was this one fic that really caught my eye. It's called The Vulcan's Wife, and so it's like the beginning of Amanda and Sarek's courtship, how they fall in love, and then get married. Some Pon farr thrown in there, because why not?
Yes.
Because that's my favorite. And then it has like a little sequel series where they're trying to get pregnant with Spock, but it's really difficult because, like, I remember in one chapter, this really isn't too spoilery, but it's like they actually had to inject Amanda's stomach in order to make sure that Spock would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, I think it was something wrong with the development of the brain, and so then she kept having miscarriages or something, and it was just like, that would be so hard, trying for so long to have a child with someone you love.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why I kind of was annoyed when Sarek basically was just like, with Spock. It was like, are you freaking kidding me? It's like, he's your son, and you love your wife. Like, why are you doing this?
No, I know, and that was like that. Like, there's tons of fan fiction about that conflict because, you know, the decision of are you going to support your husband or your child, and it's like, it's so interesting, and I love their relationship. And that was the other thing with Discovery, is that by having her be raised by Sarek, it in some ways alters Spock's backstory, because like one of the things about Spock's backstory is that he's alone, and like,
yeah,
but if you have a human who's not, even if she's not growing up with him, has been there, and like then he has like a reference point, or at least some companion that he could potentially talk to. So I'm just like, canonically, it's just such a, like, for me, that's such a sticking point. It's Discovery is a series that raises so many questions. Like, to me, that's the mark of a bad prequel. A bad prequel series is one that leaves you with more plot holes than something else.
God, yes. I hate those so much. It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, well, what about this? Oh no, it was retconned. Like, are you kidding me?
And that's the hard thing, is that because the way they've structured it is they're like, oh, just like, you know, basically like, sit down, shut up, enjoy it. If you're, you know, and then you have the articles, you know, like, fan comes from the root word fanatic, and you're just like, look, it's not fanatical to ask a basic question about canon.
Yeah, like, I think if they're avoiding the question, then you know that it's an actual problem that they know, but they don't know how to address it. It's so annoying. Like, I think, Spock's only companion growing up besides his parents was
his
Ichaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we had more of him. I wish we had more of Ichaya. Just like, I can just imagine Spock riding on him across the desert, like some sort of majestic, like with the hair in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
The long, like, pre-reform hair, just like majestic. Oh my god, that's an image and a half. That's a good image and a half, actually.
And I think that's one of the things about Star Trek and why people get so invested into it, is the ability to expand on the world like that, because it's so much more, because people do, okay, like, I remember I mentioned Sarek in our Skype messages and stuff. One of the things I love about Sarek is that it makes Kirk's nephew a character, because remember, Kirk's nephew shows up to be, like, his parents get killed off, and then he's just like, oh yeah, your brother's dead, oh, and his mom's dead, we're never gonna see him again.
Yeah, like, I wish they would talk more about Sam Kirk in the new one. Like, I think they only showed him once in the first movie, like, leaving at 16 or something, and I'm like, well, where does he go? When does he get married? What about the little spawn he produces?
Yeah. What about his nephew? Questions.
Yeah, like some fics deal with it, but it's like, but it doesn't give me enough closure. It's like,
no, like, so to see him have like a whole plot and everything was amazing. It's also a book that deals with the passing of Amanda Grayson, but also like the beginning of their courtship and all that stuff. And it's a really beautiful like exploration of Sarek as a character. And I really like Sarek, and a lot of people did too, because they got the most fan mail they'd ever gotten when that episode aired for Sarek. So
yeah, I think Sarek is really interesting. Like, his third wife in The Next Generation. Yeah. I liked her. I'll always prefer Amanda Grayson over her, but like I thought she was a good character, and like if she ever came back, I thought that would have been fun.
Well, like Sarek's arc is so tragic in The Next Generation, but that is one of my favorite episodes. It's so great. It's such a powerful episode. Like Star Trek has so many powerful episodes, and it's so much more than just camp or Kirk fighting a lizard and constructing a lathe in the desert. Like, or it's so much more.
Or his nipples being exposed.
Oh yeah, or his shirt, getting his shirt off. Like, it's so much. It's so much more than that. And I really wish that people. But I feel sometimes that people are embarrassed of those parts, and they focus on that too much. And they ignore all the really positive, strengths of the series, which was something that even Shatner himself did. Like, he got caught up in the camp and, the kind of kitsch factor of it. But there's so much more to like.
Are iconic.
Yeah. Like, there's so much more to like about it than that. And I wish people wouldn't be ashamed of that, because that's one of the things, like...
It's fun.
Discovery... Is it fun?
It's just like...
It's good. It's good. They're trying. It's well thought out. And in that way, it will always be a better series than Enterprise. It is trying and has thought through its punches a lot more. And it is really trying to be clever and do something. But it's almost entering the realm where it's taking itself so seriously that you're like...
Yeah, can we have some laughs? I mean, I'm hoping, because now that you said that, I'm really hoping they do an episode like... PSI 2000, they need that.
They really
need
do.
Like several.
And the thing is that it's hard to critique, because some people, because it has like the queer representation and because it has the female lead, they get down on you if you critique it. They're like, oh, well, you just like, it's so progressive. I'm like, okay, something can be progressive and still have flaws. Like, they can exist side by side. And I hope, but I will give Discovery a chance, because in the history of Trek, except for TOS, every first season has been terrible. That is just the tradition of Trek. The first season is always just like, do we want to continue this? And then the next seasons get better from that point on. Like, the first season of DS9 is a mess. It's such a mess.
Yeah, I've gotten through the first season of DS9. I was on the second season and I had to stop. But, like, I actually kind of enjoyed the first season because it was a little bad. Like, I think my favorite episode out of the entire one was the third one when they introduced Garrick, because he's definitely my favorite.
Oh my god, and he's hitting on Bashir so hard in that episode.
I was so annoyed. Like, one of your very first episodes was about characters who played
who played like their characters like explicitly.
Openly.
Yeah. I was very sad because they did purposely separate them. They purposely separated them because they both first Garrick started doing it, and then Bashir was down for it. So then they both started playing it that way, like it had a romantic leaning. And so because they were worried that it was going to, lose viewership, be too out there, they split them up. And so from, I think, season 3 onward, you don't see them together as much. But when you do, they still do very much play it like they have this very close relationship. But in the finale, they cut a key moment between the two of them, but they put it back together now. But I remember being so mad that they cut it out, because I was like, you know what? You can't stop denying this relationship. But so much of the fan fiction deals with, bridging that gap. So we'll always have that. Yeah. But it is frustrating that, especially because by modern standards, like, it wasn't that intense. Like, if you watch it now, like, it's not, like, he's clearly hitting on him, but it's not,
It ain't the level of Destiel eye sex. It's like pre-Destiel eye sex.
I don't know. There's a lot more touching than Destiel. That was some intense shoulder touching.
Like, I love the fics that deal with that. Like, they say like that the Cardassian neck area is super
where their sensitive glands. Yeah,
like it's basically like a clitoris, and it's like, yes, I want all of that. That needs to be canon, and I just need Bashir trying to like give him a shoulder massage.
Oh,
and it's
that
just
was like, there's one of my favorite episodes with which deals with O'Brien, because you know O'Brien has that bigotry towards Cardassians because he fought in the war, and it deals with him having to work with this female tech and him sending out I love that one. I love it so much. He's just sending out all the wrong signals. And I'm like, yes, just everything about this.
I love the episodes that deal with racism because it's so prevalent. Like even now, like the whole thing with Mexican immigrants coming into the United States, and it's like, we are a country of immigrants. Are you kidding me? Like, I think the one episode that's always hit it for me, like, about that would be the original series episode with the people who are literally just literal black
Let
and
this
white.
be our last battlefield, yeah.
Except, yeah, I forgot the episode name, but, like, it's, like, the only difference is the colors are flipped, and I was just, as a kid, I was like, I literally looked at my parents, and I was like, why are they fighting? What's the point?
Yeah, like, some people feel it's ham-fisted, but that's the point. The point is that it's supposed to be ludicrous. It's supposed to be ridiculous. That's why it's like that, because that's how he felt about the concept, because it's ridiculous, and that's how you should feel about it. So I think it works, you know?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. Like, that's what I always think of, because in my sci-fi class, my senior year of high school, my sci-fi teacher actually showed that episode along with a book, like, to go along. It was, like, The Left Hand of Darkness.
I love that book. Ursula Le Guin. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that one was a good book. I still have it. But, like, when I was watching that episode again, I was kind of smirking behind my hand because I was one of the only people in the class that had actually seen the original series. And I was like, you guys are missing out, because it's fun. Like, you've never lived until you see Shatner and Nimoy grinding against each other in the sand trying to fight.
I love it because I have episodes that I love that are deep and episodes I love that are ridiculous. Like, Kirk split in two halves with him, you know, I'm Captain Kirk.
Or no, like the one where the series finale where he switches.
I actually love that episode. So it's like such a deep commentary on like gender roles of the time without meaning to be, and that's kind of what I love about it, because like at the end they're like, she could have had a good life if only, and I'm like, yeah, if only she hadn't won anything or aspired to anything, she would have been fine, guys. And so like,
I've seen, like, I remember this one fic that dealt with that, except they switched the genders of Kirk and Spock, so it was different. And so the, oh god, what was her name? The girl who switched them? Do you remember?
Oh my god, I just watched the episode. I'm a terrible fan. I watched it with my dad the other day.
Like, I've seen that episode several times, but I don't remember her name. But, like, she hit on Spock, and when Kirk found out, she wanted to, like, wring her neck. And I'm like, yes, all of that. But I thought it was interesting. Like, she could have had it all. She could have done what she wanted if she admitted she had a mental disease. Because I remember she was just like, if you admit to something like that, I thought it was a good commentary also on mental illness, because some people don't even admit that they have it, and I think that's harder. Like when Spock first admit, like, out loud that he does have emotions. Yes, he does love his mother. Yes. He does love his mother, even if he's under the influence of something. And it's like, admitting it to yourself is probably more difficult than admitting it to other people. And that's also probably why I like Trek, because it explores so many different things. Yes. Like, whether in canon or outside of it, it's like Q and Law. I was reading that, and so yes, it's good. I still blame you for me buying it, but I thought it was just like, I always loved God. I can never pronounce her name.
Lwaxana. Yeah.
So yeah, I always thought she was an interesting character, and like I've already seen the episode where she and Odo meet in the Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And it's just like, and I also loved Q because he provided this really interesting commentary on what does it mean to be human if you, like, what if you had this kind of power? Like, it's just interesting. Like, I think that's also why I really love that character. Or, like, when he showed up on Deep Space Nine, this guy was like, oh, no. Because Cisco was just like, oh, no.
Cisco doesn't have time for that.
Yeah, nobody has time for Q except Picard. Also, please tell me you're going to do a Q card episode.
I'm totally going to do a Q card. Q card is just amazing.
It's like, yeah, it's one of my favorites.
people are too hard on Loxana. Like, I know people think, like, she's annoying, she's overbearing. I'm like, but you know what? She's a fully fledged out character, and I like that about her. I like that she has flaws. I like that she has
layers.
Yeah, she has layers, and she's interesting. And to be honest, like, she makes me miss my mom, like, a lot, because I know, like, if my mom was still alive, like, she would totally be that mom who is just all up in everything. And so I'm just like, whenever I watch Loxana, I'm just like,
Mom. Yeah, my mom is one of those interesting people. My mom is like the love child of Loxana and Amanda. So she was very different even in her own time. So like she grew up in the 60s and she was far more progressive than most people. And so I have a feeling like if there was ever a Star Trek character like her, it would probably be like Loxana. Because it's just, she's different than, she has a different air about her than most people, and it kind of intimidates people or annoys them, but it's like, when you really get to know them, it's like the best and healthiest relationship you will probably ever have.
No, I love characters who are just themselves, and that's also what I love. I love the trickster character in Q. I do enjoy that.
Or Trelane, even though Trelane's a good shipping point for Symbrock, because like he like reveals I'm mentioning a lot of fanfics, but like there's this one that I really love where Trelane comes back and he's like, it's like Valentine's Day basically, and so he's like trying to make Spock fall in love with Kirk without realizing Spock was already in love with Kirk, like they're already in love with each other, and so he has all these backwards things about love, and so it's really interesting to see. Like, I remember this one pivotal line that Spock says. He's like, you understand the universe, but you have no clue how to play or deal with it, or something like that. And it was just like, Jesus Christ. It was like, this is the reason I love Spock. Right there, just like, mic drop. That was basically it. Like, I loved their dynamic, too, like, Trelane and Spock.
I love Trelane, and, like, one of the books I recommended to you, Q Squared, it deals with the backstory of him being a Q, and I love that as a canon possibility. Like, that would be such a great way to tie the two series together, and I'm like, that's an idea I can totally get behind. I'm also a weirdo who shipped Trelane and Kirk, and I found one fic once, and I have never found it again. So please, anybody who's watching, if you know of this fic, send it to me.
I'm gonna Google it then. I'm gonna look that up, because that's usually what I do. Is like, if I have like a ship idea, I write it down somewhere, so that way, like, even if I don't find any fic for it, if I ever have the time to write the fic for it, I will. Like, in the, like I mentioned earlier, the Star Trek Next Generation crossover, there was this one ship that was kind of hinted at in the book, like someone having an attraction to another person, but I've never found any fic for it. It was Angel or Archangel, Warren Worthington III, and Deanna Troi, and I was like, yes, but I couldn't find anything.
Troy's another character who just... Troi could be more interesting than she is. She often suffers from being very poorly written and poorly utilized. Like, there are many times when the ship needs a counselor and she's not there, and there are many times when it doesn't need a counselor and she is there.
And she's there, yeah. That's why I really don't ship her with Riker. That's why I mentioned this in one of my emails, but I should ship Riker with the one character he was paired off with in an episode named Soren.
Yes.
Because I thought it was interesting, like, she doesn't really know him well, but she still admits to him she doesn't feel androgynous like most of her people do. She feels female. And it's like, that kind of hatred, I think, in that episode, like, that's also one of my favorite episodes of The Next Generation, because, like, it does deal with gender identity, but the people aren't accepting. Like, that's why I wish that he had been able to, you know, been able there to be able to help her more than he was allowed to, because otherwise it would have caused this whole diplomatic incident, and it was just, like, complete baloney. And it's like, that's why I really kind of shipped them more, because I think it would have been interesting. And then I prefer shipping Deanna with Worf.
I was like, well, because I love Worf and Jotsia.
Yeah, like I've heard they're a good couple, but it's like if I'm only thinking of the next generation, like if Worf never left, then I would want him with Deanna. But if he does leave, I want him with Jadzia. It's interesting, like when you ship multiple people.
One of the things I also wish is Worf needs to be a better father. I really wish.
Yes, I loved Alexander growing up. Like,
so great.
I know, it's like, baby. Also, we need a whole episode dedicated to just Spot.
Yeah.
The cat.
Can we just have, like, what is Spot doing? Yeah.
The cat episode. Just, like, Data walks around with him like a scarf, because Spot doesn't want to leave his shoulders.
No, like, Spot's just wearing a GoPro, and we just... It's like the lower decks, but with a cat.
Yeah, just like him, like, curling up on Geordi's lap or something, and Geordi's like, whatever. Just, like, continues doing his work while one hand's, like, stroking the cat, like, villain style.
I like the series because they don't have to be too pointed. I feel that sometimes leaving a bit of ambiguity gives you more room to play around narratively. The whole point is that it's supposed to be a discussion about things that maybe people haven't thought about. And so the best way to bring to light things that people haven't thought about is to present it in a way that is approachable and enjoyable for everyone. And I think that's something that Trek excels at. You know, unless you hate sci-fi, then you're out.
Yeah. then you're just screwed. I think sci-fi is one of the better genres out there because you get to play with the future and all the possibilities we have as humanity, and I think that's why, like, I do prefer Star Trek, but I love Star Wars too because it's more in the past, like the past where we could have had a chance, like, oh, what if we weren't alone in the universe, like what if aliens really did build the Egyptian pyramids or something, I don't know, but well, then again, some people already do believe that, but to each his own.
Well, I mean, I'm from Canada. We have an alien landing pad, so... I mean...
That sounds so Canada. Like, do you have, like, a little maple syrup stand on the side while you
no,
have
we have,
moose?
like, a legit pad. Like, it's got flags and everything. Like, it's for, like, if aliens land, we have a proper landing pad for them up here in Canada.
That is so Canadian. Do they get free healthcare, too?
Maybe that's on the plaque we sell for them. It's not really free, but...
But that's like the joke on the internet, like, oh, maple syrup, oh, moose, oh, Mounties, and that kind of stuff. I find that so funny.
We are pretty serious about our maple syrup. Like, that's kind of true.
There's this other YouTuber, Canadian YouTuber I watch. I don't know if you've heard of her, but like Simply Nailogical.
Yeah.
So like she did a maple syrup episode where she literally just put maple syrup in the sand, and everyone was like, not sand, in the snow, and everyone was just like, wait, you can do that?
Yeah, that's a delicacy up here. I learned to do that when I was a kid. Yeah.
Well, I've never experienced snow. I've never seen snow. I've never felt snow. I don't count the stuff that they used to put, like, sell to kids, like, they put water in it and all of a sudden you have instant snow. But it's like, the snow here, like in this part of California, if there's snow, it usually gets extremely dirty because of all the wildlife. Because in the mountains where it does snow, there's, like, a lot of deer and, I was about to say wolves, and I was like, no, that's Teen Wolf. No, mountain lions, there's a lot of those around. Maybe not in my part, but, like, in other cities nearby, and so, it's like, we're so used to dirty snow, and it's like... Then again, every time anyone thinks of California, they think of the song by Katy Perry, and it's like, I don't wear Daisy Dukes or bikini tops, so can you leave me alone? I'm not that tan. I was born blonde, but I'm not blonde anymore. I'm not like...
No, every region has this thing. Like, everybody thinks that Canadians, like, some people think we live in igloos, that it's just a frozen tundra, you know, across the entire expanse. And I'm like, no, we have plains. Like, we have all kinds of different weather. We have different...
You have ice dogs.
We have them up north, but, like, we have different...
Ride moose instead of cars.
We do say A. That is a thing that we do.
It's just like, oh, well, this is part of our lives now. What are we going to do?
I don't think we say a boot, but, like, there was a weird time once when I was talking to somebody and I did hear my accent. Like, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I was talking to someone and I heard it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's what I sound like.
See, when people say Californians have an accent, I'm always just like, do I have an accent? Because I don't feel like I have an accent, but then people are like, yeah, Californians have an accent. I'm like, what do you want about? But then sometimes if I'm speaking, like, Spanish, or like if I'm saying words in like Italian or Portuguese, sometimes sometimes I get an accent randomly, like oh god, what's that one, like puchadades? It's an Italian cookie.
Yeah.
And so when I say that, people are like, what? And I'm like, oh, sorry, it's puchadades. So I have to say it like in an American way, and I'm like, oh lord.
No, I know I do, because when I go to Quebec, our French province, as soon as I start speaking French, they switch to English because they can hear my accent. And I'm like, guys, I can speak it. It's okay. Give me a chance.
It's fine.
Give me a chance. Let me do this.
I can do this, okay? Leave me alone. Let me at least try before you decide
Yeah,
I
like, don't
fail.
give up on me.
At least don't just stop me and then give me the gold "you tried" sticker, okay? That's just mean.
No, my husband and I, like, we finally had one full conversation by the end of our trip, and we were like, we did it. We had they let us finish a conversation. We did it.
Boom. High five. High five the baby too. High five. Every time I think of your baby, I just think of a tiny little shipper on her own tiny little sailboat. It was just like the little shipper's guide to the galaxy flag, just like.
It's exciting to see your kids get into what you're into. Like, it's really exciting to see her, like, start reading some of the same books, start getting into some of the same stuff. And it's it's that fun idea of, like, now I know how my dad must have felt with me, like, sharing Star Trek with me, like, getting to share something that you enjoy so much and see somebody experience it for the first time. And I'm just like, I'm really looking forward to that, because I remember what a fun part of my childhood Star Trek ended up being for me, and how it ended up being something that really stuck with me. I don't know, like, Star Wars didn't end up doing that for me. Like, it's the same, like, I like it, but it didn't stick in the same way.
Yeah. I have that with my mom and Harry Potter, and my dad and Sherlock Holmes, or just Sherlock if it's the BBC version.
Yeah.
Like, you see the Pooh Bear in the background over there? My grandma was so excited when I got into Pooh Bear, because her favorite character was always Eeyore. And, like, I realized as I've grown older, okay, I identify more with Piglet and Eeyore than anyone else on that show. And it's just, like, spirit animals. But, yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, because, there's this one friend I have, she'd be my friend, but, we mostly just talk online, and so she shares her passion with Star Trek with her daughter, and so, like, she has this whole, like, Facebook group and stuff, and it's just so interesting. Like, I don't really share my fandom with my parents, because I share other things with them. Like, with my mom, I share Harry Potter, but I don't talk about, like, the ships and stuff. I more talk about the weird fan theories, like, oh, Draco Malfoy is a werewolf. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued.
Ron was Dumbledore the whole time.
Yeah, just, like, all of the above, all of the random fan theories that have just come out of different shows. I love the fan theories. Those are always so interesting. Like, I wonder what it was like back in the day when the first Star Trek movie came out and there was the novelization with the footnote. Yeah. Like, I probably would have died. I probably would have been just, like, screaming my head off in excitement, because I always love that word. I think that's an amazing word, and I hope to use it on my nerdy significant other at some point. Just like inside the wedding ring.
I know, just people will find it and be like, what is this?
It's the language of love. See, when I was younger, for some reason, I don't know why, but my pronunciation was always Tahila, and I cringed when I think about it, and it's like, oh man, when I was a young girl.
So why don't you share your ships that much with your parents?
I think they find the whole fandom culture to be a little weird, because I think I've mentioned them a few times. Like, I usually only mention them to one of my friends, because she sometimes reads my fics, but I usually don't allow people, like, I don't like my friends or my family, like, knowing about that part of my life, because it's more for me than for anyone else. Like, it's like my own escape from morality, and if they, like, came into it, it would kind of feel weird for me. Yeah. So that's why I like talking to you, because you're not in my everyday life. Well, your videos are, but that's besides the point. I prefer sharing it with other people online that aren't part of my everyday life. It's a very interesting dynamic in a way. Like, I talk about it sometimes, but I don't get, like, as really, like, into it, I guess, with my close friends and family.
I found that for me, like, because I started out, like I've said many times, I'm making the fan videos and I shared them with my parents. And so I was always really involved in that sense because I've always been a bit more of a lurker. So I didn't really talk that much because it took me a long time to get to the point where I was comfortable talking online to people. And so for me, like, my parents were the people that I shared my fandom with. And my mom was low key a huge shipper. So, like, we shipped all kinds of things together. My dad's more into other aspects of fandom, but like he gets it, so he's fun in that sense. But like I do really miss being able to like text my mom up or something with some really bizarre, weird shipping thing that she'd totally be into.
Yeah. My mom understands fandom to a degree, and I guess my dad kind of doesn't in a way, but it's fun to share some things with her. Like, I'll show her, like when I went to my first Comic-Con a few years ago, I brought back pictures, and she was absolutely amazed with some of the stuff I had taken pictures of, because there was actually a paper Iron Man. So they made an Iron Man completely out of like paper and stuff, and they had lights on the inside for like his reactor and the eyes, and she was blown away by like that kind of stuff, like what people can create or inspire to create, like, because some of it's beautiful, like the artwork, the stuff people make in real life. I actually have a little KS mug thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
I like paint. I found an old tea set, and I was like, okay, I'll just paint this, whatever. And I was like, I have to have one fandom thing, so it's like, there it is. It's the Kirkspock with the red and green, with the red and green lines to symbolize their blood.
I couldn't go this year to cons because, like, it's, like, not yet. Like, maybe next year when she's older. But my friend, she texted me. She was like, I found all this Nightwing fan art of sexy Nightwing. And so she bought some for me. And I was like, you're the best.
Wait, have you ever heard of the Hawkeye Initiative?
Yes, I have.
Oh my god, that's, like, my favorite thing of all time. Like, sometimes I go back to the Tumblr when I'm feeling like the fandom's just like, but then like I see that and it just makes me happy. Yeah,
it's like when you need a laugh, you know, like you need to remember that people are having a good time. The Hawkeye Initiative.
That's like, that was the most, when I first heard of that, I think I saw it on DeviantArt first, and then I heard it through your channel again, and it was just like, I forgot that existed, so I went back and it was immediately dying of laughter that when my mom walked in, she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. nothing you need to see, because I think it was the picture of Hawkeye with a thong and his butt was facing, and I was like, okay, gotta change the tab, gotta do that.
I know. I love how that would be more difficult to explain than something else. You'd be like, okay, hold on.
I can explain porn. I can't explain.
It's like, so people are redrawing covers with Hawkeye.
That actually happened to me in school once. I think it was my junior year, and I was starting to really get into fan fiction. So I had AO3, and I was reading, I think it was either a Smutty Spurk or a Smutty Spones. I don't remember which one. It was one of the two. And the vice principal started walking over to me, and I'm like, okay, gotta change the tab. And I'm like, hi. And then when he left, my friend was like, are you okay? Because I was moving really quick. I was like, I was reading some Smutty fanfic. She's like, no, you weren't. I was like, and I was like, do you want to read it? And she's like, nope. I'm good. But it was so funny. I was just like, thank God he was on dark mode. Otherwise I really would have been in trouble, and I would have been like, I think it's harder to explain to people like how intense fandoms can get than explaining why you're watching two men bang in a porno.
No, 100%, because then not only do you have to explain it, then you have to explain like all of fandom. It's like you have to launch into this really complicated explanation, like the history of shipping to explain what's happening.
You need like a PowerPoint presentation or like a 7-part telenovela with limited commercial interruptions or something like that.
Well, it's like the further you get into it, it's easy to forget that there are some people who just aren't into it at all, which is why I'm so glad that I keep like some of my friends who aren't into it at all, because they're always a great grounder of like people who just they don't have time, they just have different venues, walks in life or whatever, and they don't have time to YouTube, to fandom, to anything. And it's like, it's always good to remember, because sometimes when fandom gets really intense, it's also always good to talk to those people too, because then you remember that like not everybody cares to this extent as like, you know, there are people who are okay
Sometimes, like, I escape into fandom because I'm a psychology major, so I listen to some really dark stuff. Like, sometimes I'll listen to creepypastas.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll listen to the history of the Scarborough rapist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, like, fandom, it gets better. Like, there are some darker aspects, but if I need my fluff, I know where to go.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. It's easier to explain to my parents why I'm watching a documentary on a serial killer than it is to explain why I'm watching a fan vid of 18 plus Malik. It's an interesting experience, and it's like, that's easier to explain. I just say, I'm a psych major, Mom, and I can't, but if I had to explain to her why I'm watching some kind of weirdo porn of something she actually watches, then...
No, fandom is interesting, and it's fun, and it's fascinating to chart the evolution, and I hope that more people continue to chart it, because it is such a unique junction we're at a point now where it's so easy to collect everything into one place and to be able to examine it and to be able to share it in a way that wasn't possible before, because fandoms have been around for a long time, but it was a lot harder to organize and mobilize. And I feel like sometimes that's part of where you're seeing some of the cracks, because there are so many different types of fans. Because people talk about fans like they're a monolith, but there are many different types of fans, many different types of ways to enjoy fandom. And even within an individual, it varies from fandom to fandom. Like, everybody's not the same across all fandoms.
Yeah, some people get really intense with their ships. Some people really get intense with their theories and stuff. It's like, people, calm down.
For me, like, I can understand where most people are coming from, which, aside from loving ship manifest, which is part of what inspired me to do the channel, because, like, when somebody gets really mad, like, for example, when I went to see Star Wars, like, two of my friends, like my husband and then a friend of mine, were like, the shots are arcing in space, I'm angry, the physics is off. Like, that doesn't make me angry. Like, it doesn't. And yet I read some articles about how, like, you know, like, fanboys with their tech need to sit down, and, like, toxic masculinity, and I was just like, look, it's okay to be annoyed about bad physics. Like, I'm not, but...
Like, when you see explosions in space.
I didn't even notice. I did not even notice, but my husband came out, and the first thing he was like, those shots were arcing. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, the shots arced in space.
When my dad sometimes watches, like, Sci Fi or Star Wars, he gets really annoyed because he's always like, there's no noise in space. And I'm like, Dad, just enjoy the movie. And then, I watch Law and Order SVU a lot because I find it really interesting. And my dad is always poking holes, and I'm like, Dad, wait until the end of the episode, then poke holes in it, okay? Just let me enjoy it in the moment, and then afterwards we can have the discussion.
My dad was a locksmith, and so whenever we're watching a heist movie or something, he's always making fun of the tools and stuff. He's like, that doesn't work. Those don't work. You can't break in like that.
That's not that. Nope. How did he feel about Now You See Me?
Oh my god. Well, because my dad also is really into magic, so, like, he has all these magic books, and he, like, practices a little bit. Now You See Me.
He was just like, I'm done. Flip the table.
That's one of my favorite things, because, like, I got him onto Netflix recently, so he's just been binging, like, so many things, so I keep getting all these calls and texts that are just like, what is this?
I'm kind of afraid to get my dad on Netflix. Like, I have like a little separate thing from him, but he doesn't know how to use technology properly. This is a man who tells the remote to go screw itself, and the remote's just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I had to explain to my dad that you don't need to be at a specific port to access your email the other day. So, like, I know your pain.
Yeah, my dad is technologically disadvantaged, but my mom isn't. Like, there's something she doesn't understand. Like, she still has, like, a flip phone, but she's like, when I retire, I'll get, like, an iPhone so I can understand it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, my dad actually broke one of my old laptops because he didn't realize that you couldn't touch the screen.
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, really? I'm like, oh, well, whatever. I don't really care. Whatever.
That actually brings me back to Star Trek in a random way. But, like, one of the things everything is Trek. One of the things that's hard, I think, with any of the prequels, not just Discovery, but this happened with Enterprise too, is that our technology is so different. Because in the 60s, what people conceived of as the future was buttons and dials, because that's what people were working with and how technology looked.
Everyone has touch.
everything's touchscreen, it's flat and all that stuff. So when you watch the two and one is supposed to happen before the other, it just creates this dissonance and disconnect just on a pure aesthetic level that can sometimes be like, where the buttons.
There was one fic where AOS Symbrock goes to the Toast universe, and so Kirk was really jealous because he wanted to play with all the buttons, but all he had was touchscreen, and it was just like, that's the kind of purity I need in my life. Just, I want the buttons. Why can't I do the buttons? Sometimes you just need to angrily hit a button. Or like,
it's not the same.
Or like flip phones. Like going just dramatically like...
No, the Iron Man effect is not the same as smacking a button really hard.
Nope. Or like if you go like this, like to blow it up, like when he did like in the second or third.
Yeah,
where it goes. It was just like, that's... If I can't have buttons, I want that.
Yeah, I want to dramatically open all my windows, and also I like when they throw windows like onto surfaces and stuff like that. Like, that's gonna be my life one day, hopefully.
I just want to be dramatic all the time. Just like, I want to be the Beyonce in my life, but right now I'm not.
The thing is that half the tech that I could use for that I don't need. Like, you know, like Alexa or something like that. I'm like, no, I don't need that. I don't have a complicated enough life for Alexa.
Nope. I live in an old house, so we don't really need that much. What I would prefer is an actual air conditioning system. Because my house is older than the dirt in this land, probably.
No, like, I know myself, and I'm a bit of a wimp. Like, I get skittish. Like, I'm a very skittish person. Like, so nice.
Oh, God.
I know if I had Alexa, I've heard from people who have her that she sometimes activates, like, you know, and I'm like, that I couldn't handle that. Like, if she talks and I'm not talking to her.
Or, like, Alexa and Cortana were having, like, a full-blown conversation or something.
Like, no, but I can't deal. I need to move. Like,
No, I know, but, like, I read this article where Alexa and Cortana were actually having a conversation with each other. Like, Cortana said something nice about Alexa, and Alexa said, "Thank you, Cortana," and I'm like... The robot uprising is happening. Like, okay, this is what the Terminator has prepared us for. I need food.
I know, it's like I'm going to the store, I'm buying paper towels, it's just...
I will follow Chuck's advice from Supernatural. Hoard toilet paper.
Yes.
Give me all the toilet paper. I don't care what I wipe my butt with, as long as it's not a leaf or something. See, that's what I was saying earlier, like, if you had to, like, fight Khan, all you had to do was take out your baby and wait for her to poop, and then it'd be all over with.
No, Khan's ready for a lot of things, but not that.
Not parenthood.
No, he's not ready for that at all.
If Kirk was ready, he's not ready.
Oh, Kirk's definitely not ready.
No. Though I do like the fix where he and Spock have kids.
I was gonna ask, how is it balancing, like, time for, like, fandom and stuff with all the schoolwork?
I make the time for fandom because it's relaxing in a way. Like, even if I don't have time to write for it, I will always make time to read for it. Because it's like, I've always loved reading, so it's really therapeutic. Because sometimes I have to write, like this weekend, I have to write I have to prepare a topic about American government or something.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with, like, racism. So I'm, like, just dealing with Star Trek and fandom. Like, I've been reading a lot of Shadowhunters fic recently, so it's like, it's just seeing like all these different things. It's like, but then sometimes I want to read stuff that's more like probably scarring for other people, like non-con or like really graphic violence.
Yeah,
because that kind of stuff is interesting.
It is, and if it's well written, it can be like. Good. Like, I've read a lot of the Jessica Jones Kilgrave fics when Jessica Jones first came out, and some of them were actually really good, and I was quite saddened that people bullied the writers off of the fan site because some of them were clearly actually trying to work through some stuff. So I was like, you know, there was some merit to a lot of those fics that I kind of feel was ignored. Like, one day I'll do a Jessica Jones Kilgrave episode. I was going to do it at the time, but it was one of those things where I was like, people are too passionate about this. Yeah, like, let's wait. We'll give it some time.
Yeah, sometimes you have to wait for something to calm down before you can enjoy it. That's why I didn't watch Voltron for the longest time, because when I first heard about Voltron, it was actually through your videos, the first Clance video, and so it was like, oh, well, I've seen the artwork for it, and I like Clance, because it seems interesting, and I read a few fics, but I never actually watched the show until cool down. So, like, I only started watching the show after the 5th season came out or something, because it was like, you gotta wait for some things, because people get way too into it sometimes. It's like, calm.
Yeah. No, we could all use some calm in fandom. I really truly feel that way, that a lot of things could be solved by people taking a breath and taking a step back. So aside from Spurk, do you have any other big ships?
Sarek and Amanda.
Mm.
I like the idea of McCoy and Uhura being together, like in the new series. I think it'd be kind of interesting because I really don't ship her with Spock.
I don't ship her with Spock here. I shipped her with Spock in the original series more than I do in the modern series, because they were setting that up so clearly, like with taking the time to show their shared interests and everything, and I appreciated that.
The singing, just like with the lyre.
I really like Carl Urban as McCoy. I like all of the like updated castings, but I really love him. I think he's particularly spot on for the casting.
Along with like Zachary Quinto, I like him as Spock. I think it's very interesting, like his take on the character. I'm trying to think of all the ships. Jesus Christ. It's like, it's so many. Wait, hold on. I think I have a list on my phone. Hold on a moment. Where's my phone? I legitimately have to keep track, like, of what I've read or like what I've liked. Otherwise, I lose focus, and I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, that's why I like the tagging system on AO3 so much. It's like,
it's great. It's definitely my favorite of all the systems for tagging. Like, it's so comprehensive.
Oh yeah, it's so much easier to do it. Like, that's why I'm fine with like, oh, I had AO3 open to read something. Oh, okay. I apparently already had a story on my phone to read. But I think that's why I prefer it. Like, I always upload there first if I'm actually doing something before uploading anywhere else. Because then I can tag it there and then base my other tags, like for FF.net or Wattpad.
Yeah.
Or if I ever actually upload to DeviantArt. I've had that thing since I was 13. Like, I can actually go back to the very beginning. My very first fanfic was actually a Spurk one, and it was really short, and it was just, I was like, the cringe is strong with me. The cringe is so strong. It's like, oh my god. Or like the one where I have one where I wrote like, oh my god. just thinking about it makes me cringe. But like, I'll always enjoy them because that's what really got me started in writing. Because I like writing, but it's like, sometimes it's hard coming up with your own things, but working in a already established universe, because you don't have to explain like who these people are or what they look like, because you already know. Someone like described it once as, okay, we're just gonna jump in. Oh yeah, like I mentioned before, I like Bashir and Garrick. I wish they would have allowed it to happen, because I feel like it could have been subtle. Like,
I feel like it could have been subtle, especially because Garrick wasn't a main character, so like they could have worked on it in the periphery, because they were good at developing the side characters on DS9, which is one of the things that I really love about it, because even people who only show up every now and again have such complete arcs throughout the series. Like, that's one of the great things about DS9 for me, is that the characters arc, like, they really follow through with that. More so, I find, than on any of the other ones. You know, of the ones, you know.
Yeah, because sometimes they just leave it, like, ambiguous, and it's like, well, what happened? Oh yeah, I've also read my fair share. There's a couple of fics where McCoy and Sarek get together after Amanda dies, because Sarek's Ponfar is triggered or something after her death.
I've actually read a couple like that too, yeah.
And so it's like, it's interesting, because it's like, I'm just like, oh my god, McCoy is now Spock's father. And it's just like, but that also means there's also the opportunity for Jocelyn and Spock to have adventures. Or no, not Jocelyn. Wait. No, Jocelyn's the ex-wife. What was the kid's name?
Joanne.
But it's like, I thought that was so funny. I was just like, because apparently, like, McCoy's free thinking kind of reminded Sarek's, oh god, what do Vulcans call their souls? I can't.
Katra.
Thank you. Like, it's like, I know it's on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot it for a moment. But like, his Katra reminded Sarek's of Amanda's, and so it triggers something in him, and it's just like, bless you. Oh yeah, I like the idea of Jayla and Scotty.
I thought that was cute.
I thought that would be interesting, and then like, I like Scotty's bro T penis with Kienzner. Is that what his name is, or how you pronounce it?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, some of them I couldn't even bother trying to pronounce even if I wanted to.
I think the most recent ones I was reading, because I cycle back and forth and I read tons of pairings. I think I was reading Spones most recently, just through some old Spones fics that I really like.
Yeah, I had an old friend on the internet who used to love Spones. I actually wrote a Spones fiction in honor of her, but I lost contact with her, so I was never really able to send it to her. And some people really enjoyed it, and then I remember, because I was younger and so I was more vulnerable to criticism.
Yeah.
This one... Okay, the light's too much, actually. I'm going to turn that off. Or just going to have me in the dark. It's fine. But I remember one person was like, but that's not how Bones is characterized. And I got really defensive, but then I went back, I think, and apologized. I don't remember. But it was just like, I look back on it now and I'm like, so what? I really don't care. You have your own opinion. I really don't care anymore.
Well, it's like, I remember one of my early fics. I don't even remember what the show was. It was like a really random, like, CTV show, one of those crime shows, but I was writing a fic for it, and somebody sent me a message, a private message at least, that was like, you know, like, I don't think the character is like this because I know the actor and the roles he plays and all of this stuff, and I was young too, and so I was like, oh no, like, just stick with it, just give it a chance, you know, but like, older me is like, that was a really weird comment. Like, you know, the actor and the roles he plays. Like, really, I didn't need to reply to that. Like, but
yeah,
that, you know, that's the kind of like experience that comes with age and being in fandom for longer and knowing how to handle certain things, because it's difficult to navigate when you're younger. You know, the different comments and stuff that you get.
Yeah, it's just like some I just don't even respond to. Like, I'm like, okay, that's there, whatever. Because like on AO3, you know how you can post like fan art or fan mixes?
Yeah.
I do a lot of really cheesy ones. Like I actually made someone laugh because I made a Raylo one after The Last Jedi, and I put the song S&M by Rihanna in there just because I thought it'd be funny. And they were like apparently laughing really hard, and I'm like, yeah, but did you enjoy the playlist? I was just kidding. It was supposed to be cheesy, and then people on AO3 got mad and they kept bombarding me with comments like, oh, you shouldn't use the platform for this, just do it on Tumblr. And I'm like, yeah, but I prefer the tagging system on AO3 to help organize me.
I actually like fan mixes on AO3.
I have so many. Like, I think it's already in almost a chapter 70 right now. And then I have so much more on 8-Tracks and Spotify, and it's like, I like doing those because they're really cheesy to me. Like, it's not fanfic where I get really into it. It's more like I just see the chemistry and these are the songs I think of, and it's supposed to be cheesy. And I repeat a lot of songs too. Like, sometimes, like, do you remember in one of your very first videos for Stony where you mentioned the Say When videos?
Yes.
I loved those, by the way. Those are amazing. And I love the fic series she did for it. But like that song I put in one of my first Stony fan mixes just because I thought it was awesome. Like, it's supposed to be cheesy. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. Oh, that should be the tag I should put in it. Crack treated seriously. Those are always funny. Like, if I ever write one for Voltron, that's going to be the tag for that. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about George Takei's opinions about making Hikaru Sulu gay in the new Star Trek? Because he didn't really think it was a good idea, but then when they did it, it was just nice and subtle. Because I thought the kid was cute.
I kind of totally got what he was saying, because to me, I think what he was commenting on was the marriage between actor and character. I think what he was trying to say was that he's not Sulu. He's himself, and Sulu isn't him, so that Sulu's not necessarily gay because he's gay, and maybe Sulu is, maybe Sulu isn't, but the fact that they tried to pitch it as, like, we're honoring you, but he's saying, well, I'm not him, you know? So, like, I really got it. Like, I think the way they did it in the movie was fine, but I did totally get why he wasn't 100% behind it, because that was very much like, you know, when people see, like, Daniel Radcliffe in public and they call him Harry, like, it's that kind of...
I remember also when the Twilight series was really popular on Tumblr, someone was like, if I ever meet Robert Pattinson, I'm making him sign my Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire book, and I'm like, aw, good, he needs to be remembered for something else other than Edward Cullen. Like, I actually really like the concept of it. I think the execution's a little off. Like, I like some of the movies. I think the last one was probably my favorite out of all of them because there wasn't a ridiculously weird sex scene. but like, because I also like Rami Malek, the guy who played Benjamin, because he was Achman Ra Night at the museum. I'm like,
yeah,
yes. Okay, if you ever need to check out a really interesting and fun fandom, check out the Night at the Museum one. It's so funny because someone's
No,
like,
they're great there. Like
so,
I checked it after one of the movies, and I was like, this is a fun place. I like it here.
yeah, yeah. I'm contemplating. I'm like, I have one in progress that I want to write, like, because I like exploring the concepts of what it means to be human. We have a lot of power.
Yeah.
Because some people, I remember one person commented, "Oh, it seems like your character's too powerful," or like you need to describe her better. And I'm like, I'm waiting to do that. I'm waiting. I'm trying to get you guys like to go into it. Like I have one OC. I'm not going to describe for like 3 chapters before I'll finally describe her. Like all you have is like her hair and eye color, and I'm like, that's the point. I want you to have an image in your head so that way when I actually do tell you, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I like doing gender bends. I do when I was younger and first got into the Star Trek series, I've always wanted to write a gender bender Kirk and Spock to see how that would work in both the original series and the new one. And I love my name for her. I decided to name her Joan Talia. And then after I saw Teen Wolf, I was like, okay, yeah, definitely Talia. And it was just like, I want to do that. And then it's just because it'd be interesting. Or like play with the universe where I love the fix where they play with the universes where Amanda Grayson survives.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been so much more interesting, I think, if she had lived. But maybe Sarek had died. Or like they pulled a search for Spock and Sarek managed to transfer his katra into Amanda, and when Spock admits something, he apologizes. Like to Amanda, but then Sarek hears him, and then he just dies peacefully or something. That's actually a good fic idea. Okay, I gotta get on that.
No, it's a good idea.
I didn't even come up with that until just now. See, this is why I like talking with people online. I get ideas sometimes.
Well, I have to say that I do actually have to get going though, and like try and sleep before she wakes up.
Yeah, I was gonna say what time is it's? Oh my god, it's almost 10 o'clock for you. Yeah, go to bed. I feel like I'm nagging my parents. I do that to my parents all the time. Like, go to bed, Mom. You have work in the morning. Let me finish this. Mom, you're falling asleep in the chair. Go to sleep. My dad would just leave asleep because screw it.
Well, I have to say this was a lot of fun. Thank you for chatting about Star Trek and a bunch of other things with me.
This was so interesting. This was fun. I really enjoyed it. Whenever you get through all the Patreons, I definitely want to talk again, and I will probably talk to you through Skype and be like, hi.
Yeah, no, for sure, do it. All right, I'll chat with you again.
At some point. Bye.
Bye. So, if you made it to the end, as always, you are troopers. Let me know you made it here by telling me your favorite Star Trek episode, if you have one. And if you haven't ever watched Trek, let me know why not. It doesn't have to be deep. It can just be you weren't interested. As always, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to watch, or in this case, most likely listen to us chit-chat about fandom. I appreciate it so much, and this channel would not be possible without all of your guys' support. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. And until then, let's get to the outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, for helping to make these videos possible. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.